Hello and welcome to Awakened Entrepreneur Revolution. In this podcast, you will discover how to co-create success in your business by aligning mind, body, and soul. Tune in each week to hear unconventional ways to build your business by focusing on sales and marketing energetics, mixing the woo and the do to enroll more clients, transform more lives, and create the ripple effect you know you are here to make. The traditional approach hasn't resonated with you because it is not meant for you. You've simply evolved past it. The energy is shifting. Old bro tactics and strategies are not working anymore. And you know there is a more aligned, more authentic, and far more impactful approach for you. Join me, Jana Nixa, the Authentic Sales Coach, and a special guest each week as I discover how they co-created their multi-6 and 7-figure businesses by taking inspired action and cultivating success from the inside out. Let's transcend the traditional together to massively up-level your business and to live your purpose on purpose. Welcome back to Awakened Entrepreneur Revolution. My guest today is a licensed psychologist and mindfulness coach. She helps ambitious, impact-driven women experience more joy, more peace, and freedom through mindfulness. Please welcome Alice Rizzi. Hi, Alice. How are you?
Hello. I'm great. Thank you for having me today.
I have found, I have a few, even somebody inside my offer that was a licensed therapist and turned now intuitive coach and even channeler and psychic and all of these things, these different things have come online for her. And I feel like a lot of people expand their practice into, this more holistic space, right? So tell me a little bit more about your journey.
Well, I started both of my businesses in 2020, 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic. I started with my therapy private practice first, which is based in New York. I help professionals with stress, anxiety, and OCD. And as I was waiting for my caseload to build up, I started taking my own courses and learning about business and marketing and sales. And then I started taking courses on creating courses because I was like, well, this seems fun and like something that I can do. I know a lot of things about a lot of things. I might as well make a course about it. And so mindfulness was a topic that I've known a lot about. It's something I've been passionate about since I was about 20 years old. I wrote my doctoral dissertation on mindfulness and meditation. And so I was like, let me create a course helping people be mindful. And so I did that. And that was really fun. And from there, basically, I was like, all right, I think this is going to be another business. So I formed my LLC and now I have 2 businesses. And so in the therapy business, I primarily work one-on-one with clients. And in the mindfulness, I call it a coaching business, but it's really courses, group programs, and coaching is something like it's just a tiny part of it because I really want to give people the tools to be able to be mindful on their own. So I teach them certain concepts, I give them skills, I give them the tools. And then the idea is that they implement in their own lives. And when they do, they tend to experience like this sense of lightness and freedom and peace and joy from being in the present moment. And they're happier like in their relationships with their families. When they take time off, they can actually relax and enjoy rather than continuing to think about work and the business and whatever else. And so I'm really passionate now about working with high achieving, ambitious, heart-led women who also want to make some kind of impact of their own. That's really who I love working with. And there's so many of us. I've been doing it. Yeah, I do these podcasts quite a lot. And it's just like, it's so fun to talk to all of these women that have their own missions and causes and visions for some kind of better future. And I'm happy to be like a small part of that.
Well, I love that. And it's so funny, so like I mentioned, one of my collaboration partners, like so many of us had like these more conventional ways of making a living, right? And then it's just like something, lights went off, something happened and it just starts to expand and spill over into so much more. For anybody out there that doesn't know,
Mhm.
the difference between, having a mindfulness practice and just traditional therapy.
Well, so again, in the mindfulness coaching business, I don't really focus on one-on-one work. It's
Mhm.
really about self-paced courses and group programs. In the therapy business, I work deeply one-on-one with people. So I can work with people for years at a time. Um, that being said, the skills are not that different because a lot of the therapy that I do, I is helping people become more mindful, more present, be able to identify their thoughts, their feelings, their physical sensations, notice how they relate to other people, to themselves, to the world, notice how they frame like problems in their lives and the context for it. And it's a lot of similar tools that I teach through the courses in the mindfulness business as well. It's just the format is different.
It is really interesting because I would think, especially, I've never really done much. I've never been much in therapy myself, but I would imagine that having the tools to really cultivate that awareness and start to see,
Mhm.
even like the little bitty shift that I remember hearing somebody talking about is like, you don't, you don't, you aren't, you don't, what is it called? Like, I am anxious or I
Mhm.
have anxiety, like that's who I am versus no, 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 you're experiencing it right now.
Yes.
Like just that little bit of space, I think is so
Yeah.
powerful.
And that's a huge topic within mindfulness and like in both of the businesses that I talk about is the importance of mindful communication and how you talk about things. And I love the example that you just gave. It's something that I teach my clients to do is practice noticing. So I noticed my brain sent me this thought that made me spiral into worry. I noticed my body signaling anxiety through sweat, heart racing, racing thoughts, right? Rather than, like you said, identifying so closely with I am anxious or I'm an anxious person, that's not as helpful. It's helpful to get some distance from those types of things.
Something that I heard because I started meditating, I don't know, over a decade ago, and it was just
Mm.
hugely
Wow.
beneficial in terms of really understanding the thought and the role that it
Yeah.
plays in life. And a long time ago, I was teaching a little bit on this stuff, and because it's such a passion of mine, and just how like you start here and it's just like right on you, like
Hmm.
the thought you have is who you are.
Yeah.
This is reality. Like this is it.
You're hooked in. You
Yeah.
can't really see outside of it.
And then, cultivating like mindfulness and meditation. And for anybody that's like, I don't understand, like, what's the difference? My understanding as a meditation coach is that meditation is can be a practice in mindfulness. And what I mean by that is there's a meditation where you actually just kind of watch your thoughts, right?
Hmm.
Everybody thinks meditation is like you're going to clear your mind. And I'm like, not exactly. I mean, that can potentially be a space that you get to, but really what you're trying to do is calm the mind and start to get that space, cultivate that awareness between the I am, or I guess we can say Jana, even though that's not really it either, um, and the thought. And so, but when you're able to do that, a spiritual teacher said that I thought this was just such a beautiful way to put it. Like, it's giving you the ability, like you now see that thoughts are just auditioning for your attention
Mm.
and you
Hmm.
get to
I like
choose.
that.
And so, what
Yeah.
meditation did for me was it helped me be more mindful in life because the more
Mm.
I cultivated that relationship and
Hmm.
that stillness in meditation, the more I noticed the space in life, giving me the ability to like respond rather than react,
Absolutely.
to not get that like amygdala hijack situation, even though I still do it, y'all. I'm not perfect. It's a practice, not a perfect. I would love to know, like, what are your favorite mindfulness practices that you
Hmm.
find, really people could just take, even just listening on to this podcast today
Hmm.
and have some, I know there's some great ones. So I'd love to hear yours.
Absolutely. I'm wondering if it might be a little bit helpful for me to give a little bit of context on
Sure.
this type of like mindfulness and meditation that I teach, because I know there's not even necessarily one standard definition for mindfulness. So when I started my business, I created my own.
Oh,
So
I
to
love that.
me, mindfulness is the quality of being present in the moment with awareness, acceptance, kindness, compassion, curiosity, and non-judgment. And for anybody listening, you don't have to memorize these qualities. They're just things that I found in my practice with clients and research. Those are the things that you end up developing when you practice being mindful. So you become a much kinder, more compassionate human being. You become much more curious. You become less judgmental. You become more self and other aware, more accepting of your present circumstances. And so that's being mindful. And I do also differentiate day to day mindfulness versus mindfulness meditation. So, in general, I'm sure you know this, Jana, like there's tons of different types of meditations. Not all of them are mindfulness meditations. So, there's transcendental meditation, there's Zen meditation, there's religious or spiritual forms of meditation, there's healing meditations, and they can each be fantastic at their own way. Mindfulness meditation is its own specific thing. And so, and even within that specific thing, there's dozens, if not hundreds of different ways to practice mindfulness meditation. So through my courses, I teach people how to do both day-to-day mindfulness and how to create a mindfulness meditation practice if that's something that they want to have. So I think your question pertains probably more to like even day-to-day mindfulness. And one of the easiest ways and my best tips for you to be more mindful in your day-to-day life is to open up to your five senses. So in any given moment, notice, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I taste? What can I smell? What can I touch? In any moment, you have access to your senses, and you can only access them in the present. You can't be mindful of something you smelled 5 years ago. You can remember what something smelled like your grandma's cookies or something like that, but you can't smell them in this moment right here, right now. So if you want to be present, be mindful of your present senses. One of my favorite ways to do that, and I do this on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times a day, is I literally get up from my desk where I'm sitting right now and I go to my window and I look out and I notice like the squirrels like digging at the dirt. I notice birds flying. I notice whether it's like raining or cloudy or windy. I approach the tree in the backyard with this like curiosity and reverence and interest. And that's me engaging all of my senses. And then if I want, I close my eyes, I take a deep breath, and I just check in with my body and see what else I can feel there. So the senses are my number one tip for being present. The second one is a little bit more self reflective. And so asking yourself, what is going through my mind right now? What thoughts can I notice? What emotions are arising for me? And where in the body can I feel them? And so immediately that gets you more connected to yourself in this present moment, making you much more mindful. So that's just your day to day mindfulness. And I can go into mindfulness meditation if you like to.
I would love to, but I want to dig into those things a little bit. When you hear it for the first time, even though it's easy, like it's simple, it's not easy, right?
Right.
Because you have to
Exactly.
remember. And then, but what I would say is it's like anything else, you guys. Like the more you make this a practice, it just becomes an extension of who you are. Like now
Hmm.
I notice when my ego fires off and creates an entire story in my mind. I notice immediately when somebody says something where I feel it in my body and like where there might be some resistance. Like, but it just so that it does become automatic, like walking, right? Or anything. But
Hmm.
it takes a little bit on the front end just to like start to cultivate those skills and remembering to do it. And I will even say,
Yep.
even doing this as long as I have, maybe you can relate, like sometimes it still gets the best of me, the fight or flight
Absolutely.
kicks in and
Yeah.
we forget our tools. But what I love so much about it is it is simple.
Yeah,
It's not.
anyone can learn it. And one
Yeah.
of the reasons like I teach and practice specifically mindfulness meditation is that there's not really a way to do it wrong. As long as you are present, you're doing it. Like people a lot of times, especially in the one-on-one sessions, they'll say like, I don't like meditation. Meditation doesn't work for me. I'm a bad meditator. And I teach them what the mindfulness actually is. And they're like, oh, like that sounds so much more simple. I don't have to empty my mind. I don't have to clear
No.
my thoughts. And I teach people like that's not really possible to do. Like, and that's not the goal. Like, the goal isn't to clear your mind. Like, your brain is always going to be shooting thoughts. And the mindfulness simply allows you to take a step back and witness it happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you're practicing the mindfulness meditation, you're simply becoming a witness to your own present experience. So you're able to catch those stories. You're able to notice signals and cues from your body. You're able to pay attention to urges or cravings. And then, like you said, you get to respond instead of react, right? Reactions are automatic, they're reflexive. A lot of times they're counterproductive, like they go against what we value or how we want to act. Whereas responses, they're typically mindful, they're intentional, they're thought through. So when we practice being mindful in day-to-day life, in meditation, we simply create this space for ourselves to step back, to witness, and choose the best response for us.
I love that you said that about clearing my head, clearing your head. I used to hear that. I still hear that a lot. Whenever I talk about meditation, and it's like you said, like it's not that you are going to clear your mind of all thought. It will slow down. I mean, I'll say after
Sure.
a very long time of doing it, but certainly not at first. There's so much momentum built up there. And also, it's not that you're going to completely get rid of it. That's not the point. The point is to
Mm-hmm.
like change your relationship with the thought.
Yes. And so I was actually going to say that as well, because it's not even like I would say that it's not even about calming your thoughts or calming yourself or decreasing stress or anxiety. Like, that's not the goal. Because especially with mindfulness is all about non-striving. So we're not aiming for a specific outcome. We're simply saying, I'm choosing to be present. However, a byproduct of choosing to be present is often that you end up feeling calmer, more relaxed, more calm, and more at peace. But they're not like that's not the intention behind the practice. Whereas other forms of meditation, they might have that as the intention. Like even relaxation meditations, right? The intention is to relax, to feel less tense. So it's really all about the intention behind the practice. Is your intention to be present, or is your intention to feel calm? You may feel calm as a result of mindfully meditating, but sometimes you might feel more anxious. Sometimes you might be a little bit more on edge. You might realize, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed. That doesn't mean you're bad at meditating. It doesn't mean that the meditation isn't working. It simply means that you are mindful of this present experience. And now you get to choose how to respond to it.
Yes, it's like we don't have to be drunk on our emotions, we can choose.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
it's almost as if the more peace comes because of the present, because the
Mm-hmm.
more you are in this moment and when there's no past, no future, like
Yep.
the ego can't exist. The only place
Yeah.
that exists is in, telling you stories about what's going to happen and why you're wrong and you're going to die, or like what you did wrong and why you're a crappy person. But if you're in the present moment, like
Yep.
it's not there. It has no
A lot of
power.
times I like to say that, like, most often in this moment right here, right now, there are no problems. Most of our problems either already happened or haven't happened yet. So what's happening in the present is we might get caught up in the stories of the past or the future. But if we actually let ourselves be present, like in this moment, there's sunshine. In this moment, I have internet access. I have water. I have clothes. I know I have food. I'm talking to another human being. So in this present moment, there are no problems. And
Yeah.
people can sometimes get like really in their head, but like, oh, there's problems out there in the world. And it's like, okay, yeah, that might be true, but that's not your problem right now in this moment. In this present moment, you have no problems most
Yeah.
often, right?
And then imagine living from that as much as possible. Like if you can operate from that space and realize so much of the problems we create, it's like
Hmm.
one quote that really knocked me out of it years ago was Mark Twain saying something along the lines of like, I worried about a lot of things over the course of my life that never happened. And
Hmm.
so, when you can think about it that way, it's like, what good is it? Because if,
Yeah.
if the thing is going to happen, it's going to happen. Me worrying about it's not going to change it. And
Yes.
so I'd rather not freak out about it now I'll just deal with it one time when it happens instead of like rehearsing it a bazillion times beforehand and making myself miserable.
Exactly,
You
because
know?
that's adding suffering on top of pain,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody is going to experience pain and we're all going to experience discomfort. The more you worry or ruminate about it, the more you're adding suffering on top of the pain
That
that
may not
already
even
exists.
happen.
Exactly. And so one of the things that mindfulness teaches us, right, is this point of acceptance. I accept that this pain or discomfort might be here right now. And if I accept it, I'm already taking away suffering. Because when we ruminate, when we try to avoid the pain or pretend it's not there or try to minimize it, that's us struggling with the present moment. That's us not accepting. And as long as we're trapped in the struggle, we can't actually move forward. As soon as you're able to accept, I have a problem, I have a discomfort, there's something going on. Now you can start problem solving about what next steps that you can take. But you need to take a step back and realize that this is, in fact, happening. It is a part of your reality. And that's that acceptance piece before you can move forward.
And that, I mean, it makes so much sense. It's just like the whole, like, what you resist persist. And so
Yes.
if you just
Yeah,
accept,
exactly.
then all of a sudden, even some of the charge dissipates. It's kind of like,
Hmm.
maybe the audience can relate. Like, we worry so much about these things that in the future that aren't happening. But then the big thing in the moment, like say you get in a car accident or, like
Yeah.
something, like you are dialed in. You
Yeah.
are like all hands on deck. There's, you know what I'm saying? Like there is a calm and a peace around like, oh my goodness, this is happening. And it's not, when it's actually happening, you really do show up for yourself in those present moments versus, freaking
Mhm.
out and being all in your head about it. Like you are in your body, you are there, you are experiencing it. And
Mhm.
and you're not fighting it. And so again,
Mhm.
not fully landing that felt
No,
better,
that's okay. I
but
think I know what you're saying, like, because I think you can be present, but even when you're present, you might not necessarily be mindful. So almost like a state of flow is coming to mind, right?
yeah.
When you're in a state of flow, you're very engaged with one task or activity, and you're like maybe you're playing basketball or tennis, or maybe you're playing guitar or the flute, or maybe like you're even busy on a work project and you're really absorbed in it. That's
Mhm.
not the same as being mindful. So, mindful is actually like you are aware of everything going on around you. You're not just absorbed in this one thing. Like if you're in a state of flow and somebody maybe like is talking to you, you might not even hear them, right? So you're not actually being present with your senses. You're only being present with this one thing. And you're in your body, right? Like you might be able to like play sports and do whatever, but you're not aware that you're doing those things. So you're not
Yes.
in
I'm
that
so glad you
witness
made that
stance.
differentiation. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know
so
that yeah, because
well,
that's
sorry.
exactly what I was trying to say. Like we worry so much about like what if this, but when like it's like the mother picking up the car and getting the kid. Like
Like that's adrenaline and
we
it
we
gets you
we have
present
those.
in the body. Yeah, but it's different. Like you're not like you might be present, but you're not necessarily mindful because you're also acting on instinct. Like in the example, like the mother picking up the car, or when you're in a car accident and adrenaline kicks in, like you might be feeling your body fully, but you're acting on autopilot. Whereas the whole point of mindfulness is to get off autopilot. So you actually get to choose your responses. So you're not being impulsive, you're not being reactive, you're thinking through like what is actually for my highest good, what is my intention here, how do I want to respond in a way that resonates with the kind of person that I want to be.
Yeah, I wonder if there's crossover too.
For sure.
Because I'm just thinking
Yeah.
like, when I'm talking about like when I'm on stage or on a sales call, I'm very present and very aware, but I'm
Hmm.
also very much I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say, like I'm not over intellectualizing anything. I'm just really like holding that space for them. So it's
Hmm.
almost like a weird, I don't know, but
I think it is a presence, right? Like I
yeah,
think you get to be present, but you're not necessarily mindful of that experience of presence.
yeah,
So alternatively, you get to be present and mindful. So like
yeah,
when I'm choosing to go to the window and notice what I'm feeling in my
yes,
body and what I'm sensing, I am both in the present moment and witnessing myself in this present moment. So
yeah.
it's an interesting shift that
It
happens.
is.
And the longer you meditate, like the longer you practice mindfulness meditation, the more mindful you're able to be in your day-to-day life. But the goal isn't to be mindful 24/7, because actually some of our autopilot programs, we need those, right? Like imagine you're on a 17-hour flight somewhere. You do not want to be mindful for those
Oh my God.
17 hours. So like the brain creates these autopilot programs to help you along. It's just the more we practice mindfulness, the more we get to choose when we get off that autopilot program and get to choose a new path for ourselves.
It's a superpower, you guys. Like it really is.
That's what
And I
I
know
always say. Mindfulness is a superpower.
it's just kind of thinking back about the sales calls and being present. So I can even be fully in this conversation and notice when my ego will try to
Mm-hmm.
interject and like just tell me a
Yes.
story. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like they're both going. And so it's really interesting, but it keeps me from letting something like fear run the discussion, or making the
Mm-hmm.
conversation this about me, because it's not about me, or whatever it is, like
Yeah.
learning how to show up for somebody else and not let
Mm-hmm.
your ego try to run that show is so powerful
Well,
because
and it's that mindful communication piece again, right? Being able to be in a conversation and pay attention to what the other person is saying. Be mindful of like their body language, your body language. Think about what you want to say and how you want to say it. And it can make all the difference between like cursing out your boss or flipping them off, right? Versus saying something in a kind, respectful way that maintains that relationship. And so it can even be like noticing agitation building up, frustration, like your emotions rising, and even being able to like call a timeout, right? So like if you're with your partner saying, you know what, I'm noticing we're escalating, we're getting really heated. How about we take a 30-minute break, go clear our minds, do something fun, and then we can come back and finish this conversation. Versus letting it escalate to where you might say something that you then regret, everybody's angry, and there's no resolution.
no resolution. And I think that's where the power is, because it's the whole, like, the one that reacts loses,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the one that can stay in control, if you will, of themselves
Mm-hmm.
is the one
Yeah.
who really, I don't want to say wins, because it's not a
Yeah.
zero sum game, but it really does, whether you're in business, in relationships, like the power of being able to distinguish a story or a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I often tell this story to my clients about, like, my inner B. We'll just call her inner B. She'll
Mm-hmm.
just like throw a whole fit inside my mind about the girl in the Starbucks line, like make up a
Mm.
whole narrative.
Yes.
And it's
Yep.
hilarious. Like, once you make that
Yeah.
separation and you can watch, especially your ego, which is just the fear. Like, it's kind of like running the
Yeah.
show. It's a circus, and it's so
Yeah.
funny.
A lot of times, like I'll talk to my clients about different parts that we have, right? Like we all have different inner parts, and like, the ego, we can think of that as a part, but we can think about like the scared girl,
Yes,
that maybe she felt judged when she was younger. So now she
yes,
does all the judging.
yes.
Or like maybe you had a parent that was really hard on you. And so there might be like the perfectionist inside who wants to make sure you're doing the right thing and you don't mess up or make any mistakes. And so sometimes those stories we hear, like they're parts of us that are conveying a message that we learned somewhere in the past. And so I find that like mindfulness can help you respond to those stories in that kind, compassionate, non-judgmental way, realizing like you were doing the best that you could in the past with what you had. And so is the girl in the Starbucks
Right. Well,
line.
I love IFS, and
Yeah,
I
that's the parts
know one of
work.
my
Yeah.
firefighters, because I have two girls. One is 10,
Mhm.
almost 11, and one is 13. And one of my firefighters is to take down every mean girl on the planet,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
and so I know, I mean, I visit that. So for anybody that's wondering, we have these protector parts, and that protector parts that's like wanting to like shun the mean girl comes home and says such and such. I'm like, oh, like, hold me back. I'm going, that protector's protecting a version of me that
Mhm.
felt shunned and hurt, at some point. And so now it gets triggered when I hear one of my kids especially, and I do, this is where mindfulness comes in, right? Like I have to practice, like,
Absolutely.
hurt
Yeah.
people, Jana.
Yeah.
You're safe, your kids are safe, like,
Yes.
and
And
it's
you're
there's
able to
a
ground yourself.
yeah,
When you're mindful, you ground yourself and you remind yourself that I am here in this present moment. And in
I
this
am not
present
that
moment,
little
I'm
girl.
safe. Bingo.
And
Yeah.
you know what I love about my kids, because I've been able to raise them with this awareness, is they're like, "I don't care, mom." And here I am over there like, and they're like, "It's okay." And I'm like, "I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I had the tools to teach you that." I'm still
Yeah.
learning, yet it's just already become an extension of who you are, which is so great.
Well, so again, like another benefit from practicing mindfulness is it allows you to notice those triggers. It allows you to like pay attention to those parts that maybe have like an important message to communicate to you. Because
Mhm.
all of our parts ultimately, like they want to keep us safe, right? Like you said, like they're all protectors. They want to make sure that we survive, that we thrive. And so when we're mindful, we're actually able to do that. We're able to act in the way that's going to be most beneficial to us.
Yeah. And, you know, I, I know we're not really talking about inner child work right now, but,
I mean,
you know,
it's more or
I
less
love
in it,
it.
right? Like IFS is inner
you
child
know,
work, right?
um, but, then the next step in that whole process is like you see the protector, but now it's
Mhm.
protecting something. So it's all about finding that part that feels the need to be protected. That
Yes.
11-year-old insecure, hurting, not seen version of Jana. And a lot of it was more intuitive than anything else early on in meditation. Is I would just go back to that version of her
Mm.
and just like, hold her, ask her what she needs, let her know. Because it's like these,
Mhm.
and this makes me want to cry. It's like these versions of us are frozen in time
Yeah. Yeah.
and they really don't know. And that's why it still hurts, because it's that trapped energy.
Yeah.
And it's like a direct line to it. So, like any moms out there, when the mean girl and you feel like you've been punched in the stomach and it's like go time, you're like ready to throw down, and it's because there's that underneath it all part that
Mhm.
still really hurts over the mean girl.
Yeah. And I think this comes up actually in business quite a lot. So, in both of my businesses, I talk a lot about self-sabotage, right?
Mhm.
And really self-sabotage is often those parts coming in to protect us, but they're doing it in the way that they think is best, but that might not actually be best for us right now. So, for example, that perfectionist part that wants to make sure like it's the same part that maybe in high school wanted to make sure that you don't fail your exams and that you actually graduate, right? So like you had to get a certain score so that the teacher would pass you so that you then get your diploma. It's the same part that now might be stopping you from publishing your sales page, from finally publishing your website, from coming up with a new program for like creating content because you're so focused on I have to do this right and I can't make a mistake or I'm going to mess everything up that you never do the thing. And so you end up keeping yourself stuck. Like that's self-sabotage. If you can realize, oh, there's a protector part there. They're trying to keep me safe and they think that being perfect is the way to keep me safe. Mindfulness allows you to notice that that's a story, that that's a part, to address it with compassion, to accept it, to be less judgmental and harsh on yourself, and then to actually go and do the thing that you need to do.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because I end up working with a lot of the healers, and I say I mix the woo and the do. And
Mhm,
so,
mhm.
that next little thing she said, everybody, is key. Like we don't just healing is beautiful, awareness is beautiful, learning how to be compassionate and love all the parts, loving them home. I like to say, however, it's
Yeah.
what you do after that that's
It's the
gonna
action,
that
right?
seals
Like,
the deal, because you got to move forward out of that as the elevated now version, the elevated and integrated version of you that now does the thing. Because some of us
yeah.
will get stuck in the story. Healing's weird because you can do the thing and then you got the awareness, but now you're kind of stuck in a story too, and it's a different,
Yeah. Well, and
it's
there's also the discernment piece around, well, which action do I take? And because there's so many paths that you could potentially take. So it's really about becoming like that self leader, like the self with a capital S, that's going to lead all your other parts to where you actually want to go. And that takes discernment, and discernment takes acknowledging your present reality and thinking about like, where am I now versus where do I want to go? And actually creating the action plan to get yourself there.
Yes.
Um, and speaking of like mixing the do with the woo, like I am the same way, right? Like my therapy business is much more pragmatic, research based, evidence based. In my mindfulness coaching business, I get to be a little bit more spiritual. I talk about manifestation and law of attraction and creating, one of my programs is called Magnetic Reality. And it's all about these micro shifts that help you create like the magnetic reality of your dreams, where you get to experience freedom and success and wealth and abundance, however you choose, to define it. But the action is the key thing. You can't just dream about it. You can't just tell yourself a story about it. You have to actually take specific actions to manifest your desired reality.
Yes. And, especially for the entrepreneurs out there, you can't get it wrong. There's no
Yeah.
gold stars. Nobody's sitting around gonna give you an A plus or an A minus. Like it isn't that. It's
Yeah.
all information. And so we have to, speaking of being mindful as entrepreneurs, especially, like you really have to retrain your brain because you've been programmed good, bad, right, wrong,
Yep.
light, dark, up, down, and into nope, this is just, information. If you want
Yeah.
to label it failure, fine, but you're failing, then you're failing your way to success because that's how it works.
And I
And
don't even like to personally like label things
I
as failures or mistakes.
know
Like it's all lessons. It's all data, right?
data.
Like, I say this to clients all of the time. We only label mistakes as mistakes in hindsight, right? Like nobody ever wakes up and says, I'm going to do this and I know it's going to be a mistake. No, you do things with the best intentions and then you don't like the outcome. And when you don't like the outcome, then you label it as a mistake.
But it
But you can
helps
just
you adjust course.
Exactly. It's data. Now you know what you don't want to do, so you try something else.
Yes. We have to go through somewhat a process of elimination. Like I
Mhm.
would be really afraid if I had built a 6-figure, 7-figure business just like all in one fell swoop. I'd be like, "Oh no." Like cuz
I don't
it's
even
like
know if that's
you
possible
can't.
or what
But
that
let's
would
just
look
pretend,
like.
let's play with it. Because then you're like, you kind of feel like beginners, like you would have that looming
Mm,
fear of like beginner's luck, or I don't deserve
yeah.
this, or I don't even know how I got here. And so you want to
I mean, that's
know.
where imposter syndrome, right, can come up for so
Yeah.
many people. Like you got to where you got from certain like trials, tribulations, accomplishments, actions that you took. But if it feels easy to you, you feel like you don't deserve it. You're not worthy of it. And those are younger parts as well, but they can keep you stuck and in the sabotaging loop.
Yeah. So it's like, do yourself a favor and expand your energetic container and your ability
Yeah.
to receive in a way that actually aligns and feels good to you. Because I mean, that's why, I was listening to this other spiritual teacher talking about like kids of very rich parents. Like a
Mm.
lot of them have a hard time because they have not energetically expanded
Mhm.
in that way to, have the capability to feel like they're worthy. And so that's why you see so many, go off in the and no like no hate or shame or judgment there. But there's something energetically there around putting in the reps, doing
Yeah.
the thing, and we as humans want to earn, whatever it is, the desire, like
Mm.
through the taking of the action. And again, just like all the lottery winners, right? They lose it
Yeah.
all because they have not built out whether it's like how to handle money or whatever it may be. They don't have the skills. They haven't developed that energetic container to really hold it. And
Mhm.
so somehow, some way that frequency, you know, starts to match back up with their old reality over time. And so
Mhm.
it's like expand like it with ease.
Well,
Like
and
not
I think it takes the mindfulness to even notice, like, oh, I have been somebody who was stuck in this pattern. And now I'm someone who's choosing to break it. And here's how I'm going to do that. Like that takes a certain level of self-reflection and insight and being able to even realize that you have the capacity to change and you have control over certain things in your life. Life doesn't just happen to you, which unfortunately, that's not all people. I mean, I imagine most of your listeners are very growth minded, but there are fixed minded people out there who think life just happens to them. And some people are just lucky and others are unlucky and they're just stuck with whatever hand they were dealt. And fortunately, I think as entrepreneurs, we know a little bit better in that regard because it's like what trial by fire, right? You do something and either you get the outcome you want or you don't, and then you try something else. And that's how you keep going. And you realize, oh, I am now like 10 steps ahead of where I was a year ago. Right. But
Yes,
that person helped me get to where I am now. And so I'm also grateful for those mistakes that she might have made.
absolutely. Especially here's the kicker. I've found working with clients, and I did it too, and I still have it. I mean, I don't think we ever just fully graduate out from under all of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the enlightened ones, but a lot of entrepreneurs know this about the victim mentality, about,
Mm-hmm.
I create my reality, but they often lose themselves. And I have to remind them, it's like, come on back. Remember, that's not how we do this, because you do. The ego and the stories
Yeah.
and the patterns is so cunning. And you can be, well, but this one's different, and it's like, no, it's not. You're still
Yep.
doing it. You're still in that lack. You're still operating,
Yeah.
you're making decisions in fear or whatever it may be. And it's hard to fully get out
Yeah.
from under it.
And I think that's one of the reasons like so many entrepreneurs work with like their own coaches, like business coaches, life coaches, spiritual coaches, and healers, because sometimes it really does take another person to have their eyes on your life, on your business, and just see those patterns and point out those stories to you before they finally click for you. Because even as mindful as we can be, we can't notice everything about ourselves. And we need that connection piece with other people sometimes to point certain things out to us.
Yes, absolutely. Especially building a business, because, I had all of these things pretty well integrated before I even started my entrepreneurial journey in other ways. But then I'd buy a program, like, I hope this works.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait a minute. That's not how this works, Jana, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, it's really, does take somebody else that's not right on top of it. Like, we're
Mm.
so close to it that we just get caught right back up in the illusion.
And you can be mindful and then still continue making the same pattern over and over
Yeah.
again. Because sometimes we need to repeat the same pattern before we're ready to actually step out of it and do something differently. So just because you're aware of something doesn't mean that it's going to change, but awareness is the first step, right?
Yes.
First, you're aware of it, then you have to accept it, and then you can choose how you want to respond differently.
Yes. I love that. Well, I know you brought something for our audience, so please tell them.
Yeah. So I have the free mindfulness toolkit, which is for anybody that wants to experience more mindfulness, more meditation, more gratitude and joy in their own life. It's like a 7-day mini program, basically, where you get to experience 7 different types of mindfulness exercises. And I have mini lessons as well. And all of the videos in the program are just about 3 minutes long. So nobody has an excuse like, I don't have time for this. I can't blah blah blah. Like you can listen to a video while you're waiting for your coffee to brew or when you're sitting in the bathroom. You have time for it. So if you want to experience more of what Jana and I are talking about, this could be a great free way to do that. And that's at togethermindful.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And all the links and everything will be in the description and in the show notes. So definitely check that out. And Alice, I have one question that I really love to ask, and that is, what would you tell an earlier version of yourself?
Hmm. You are enough. I mean, it's a mantra of mine. It's an affirmation that I use with myself, with my clients. I have an enoughness meditation. Yeah, just you are enough. I think so many of us don't hear that enough. And so maybe you're somebody that needs to hear that right now. You are enough. No matter the mistakes you've made, no matter how long it's taken you to get here, no matter where you're currently at, just know that you are enough.
Oh, I love that. It just like letting that just peace wash over you. Like there's nowhere to be. There's nothing. You are already right now exactly where
Yeah.
you're supposed to be, and you're enough.
Yeah. Not when you're 6 figures or 7 figures or 10 figures, like right now, wherever
Right
you
now.
are, as you are
Accept it.
already enough.
Thank you so much, Alice, for being here. Thank you so much to our listeners, and we will see you all next time.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening. And I have an amazing gift for you. If you're ready to hit those 10K, 20K, 50K months and beyond, I created a next level you meditation so that you can take action and embody your higher self each day to quantum leap your business. Please listen up, review this podcast, screenshot the review and share it on social, and tag me, the Authentic Sales Coach, on either Facebook or IG. And I will send you this special gift as a massive thank you.